All right, we have a couple goals for you today. Our first goal is we want to share some information with you and want to make sure that you understand some of the good things that are going on in the Hillsboro School District. Our hope, though, is not that we just share this with you, that you become great ambassadors for us as you understand what's currently happening in the school district and some of the great things that are going on. In addition to sharing some information with you, we also want an opportunity to get feedback from you, to have you help us do some brainstorming and talking about what barriers lie in our way to reaching our vision and what we can do about those. So we're going to need your help in that. We're going to have an opportunity for some conversation this morning. So let me start with this story. When I was a kid, probably 4 or 5 years old, I had this life-changing experience. It was the summer of 1969, and I remember this day like it was yesterday. The sun was shining, the birds were singing. It was a beautiful day. And I remember I was out riding my trike, and I loved my trike. Now, my trike was a hand-me-down from my older brother, Jim. And it was originally red, but at the point that I got it, it was this rusty, reddish, maroon color by then. And I loved riding my trike. Loved tooling around in the driveway on it. Loved standing on the back of it, pushing myself with one foot, and just cruising around the driveway. And this day was similar to many others. I was out in the driveway and I was riding my trike. As I'm riding my trike, I hear in the distance this little kid laughing and screaming. Down the street, you could hear this little kid laughing and screaming. I could also hear this faint sound, like a rumble or a scraping noise. And it was getting closer and closer to me. So I pedaled out my trike over to the edge of my driveway, trying to see what it was that was coming down the street towards me. As I got to the edge of the driveway, I could see it was our neighbor kid. His name was Kevin Morrison, and he was a 6-year-old. So he was a cool kid because he was a couple years older than me. He wasn't walking, and he wasn't on a trike, he wasn't running. He was on a big wheel. Now this was 1969, and the big wheels had just come out. Now I don't know how old the people are in this room, but some of you might remember the commercial, The Big Wheel by Marx. And it had the adjustable seat, it had the saddlebags, it had the high handlebars, it had the big forks that went down to the oversized wheel. I'd seen him on TV, but I'd never seen one in person. And as it got closer and the rumble and the scraping of the plastic tires on the concrete grew louder, I could tell that this was awesome. And if I wasn't sold before, I was really sold when about 10 feet in front of me, Kevin Morrison yanks the handlebar to the right, pulls up on the brake, and does a perfect power slide and stops right in front of me. At that moment, I knew I had to have one. I knew that I could have a big wheel. I could be king of the block. I could be the guy on the block. Even as a 4-year-old, I could hang out with the 6-year-olds and be the guy. I can picture myself cruising up and down Woodmansey Court. In fact, my hair would probably even look like David Cassidy's if I had a big wheel. Pedaling, spinning, and sliding. I just love it. And what I thought to myself is the access that I would have to our community, that unlimited access that I would have. My social status would, of course, skyrocket. I'd have these unprecedented opportunities. I would have doors open to me that I didn't have when I was a mere trike rider. If I could only have a big wheel, my entire community would support me. I would be the guy. When I think about what I picture for myself, it's exactly what we picture for all of our 20,000 students. The access, the status, and the opportunity, that's exactly what we want for our students. For me as a 4-year-old, life was simple, and the big wheel would do that for me. But now as we look at the Hillsboro community of today and what our students are engaged with, it's more complicated now. It's much more than a big wheel for all of that to come together. When I think about the students of today and what they're grappling with, they're working with concepts and issues that are incredibly complex. They've got state-of-the-art, ever-changing technology. There's global markets, there's computer-aided drafting, there's sustainable agriculture, languages from every continent, digital imaging, environmental design, urban planning, entrepreneurship, healthcare industry, rising tuition, competitive job markets. Our students are dealing with all of these on a daily basis. The Hillsboro of today is not the Hillsboro of past generations. Like students of the past, though, Hillsboro students of today are hungry. They're hungry for access and opportunity. They're hungry for relevant and engaging opportunities and experiences. They're hungry for rigorous problem solving. They're hungry for relationships, and they're hungry for connections with our community. Schoolhouses of the 20th century are undergoing a transformation. They connect around the globe to new opportunities. They connect to internships and they build resumes. They connect to college coursework and they gain credits while they're in high school. There's no longer a line of divide between the vocational education track that we used to have for students and the college track that we had for students. That line is not only blurred, but we've encouraged that blurring in a big way. We know more than ever that today's students need workplace skills. They need digital literacy skills. Today's students need post-secondary training regardless of what they intend to do after their time in high school. They need opportunities to solve real-world problems, and they need to interact across languages and cultures in the Hillsboro community. They need a world of opportunity outside of the walls of our school building. The way we think about school now is school is no longer a place. School happens everywhere. School just does not happen within the four walls of the schoolhouse. Through partnerships with the City of Hillsboro, with the Chamber of Commerce, Hillsboro Schools Foundation, PCC, PSU, Western Oregon, we've started to unlock a world of opportunities for our students. And think about that for a minute. School is no longer a place. School is a collection of activities that happen everywhere. In our community, school happens at Intel, happens at Jackson Bottom, it happens at Hillsboro Online. School happens at PCC, PSU, Western. Happens at R&D Manufacturing, it happens at the Chamber of Commerce, happens at City Hall, happens at Tuolumne Hospital. School happens everywhere, not just in the four walls of our schoolhouse. In the next 5 years, we have a goal, and this is the goal that we want to share with you this morning. Our goal is that 100% of our students have access to real-world opportunities, for real-life learning opportunities. 100% of our students. In the next 5 years, we need to make that come true for our students. We know that's important because we know that it works for our students. I recently heard a story about one of our kids, and he was having issues with attendance. He missed a lot of school, he read very unmotivated, not connected to school in a meaningful way at all. His family had tried numerous things, had tried to connect him to school, had tried to find that spark that would motivate him. But by the end of his sophomore year, he was many credits behind it. He was identified as a student that would likely not graduate at the end of his sophomore year. Thankfully, at the beginning of his junior year, he worked with a counselor and he enrolled in one of our automotive classes. And that automotive class was the spark that he needed. He found an edge, he felt like he belonged. He identified with a group of students that had similar interests to him. He was encouraged by his teacher. He had a connection and relationship with him. It motivated him, and it got him back on track. I'm happy to report now that he is on track and he will graduate on time. Not only that, he is receiving college credits while he attends high school. Exactly what we want for all of our students. And this is just one story of many that have found success by opportunities and real-life learning experiences that they're being presented with within our schools. And as adults, I think sometimes that we fail to recognize the successes of our current young people. We tend to think that somehow the current generation is less than the past generation. Somehow they're less motivated, or they're less likely to experience success. Maybe they're less respectful, less grateful, less goal-oriented. And when I hear people say that, I think back to a passage that I heard years and years ago. And here's what it said. Youth is disintegrated. Youngsters of the land have a disrespect for their elders and a contempt for authority in every form. Vandalism is rife and crime of all kinds is rampant among our young people. The nation is in peril. The writer of that passage, an Egyptian priest, 2000 BC. This is a problem that we've encountered for years and years and years. It's the same for each generation. It's difficult for adults of the current generation to understand and celebrate the accomplishments of the youth. I can actually just picture the cavemen sitting around, the cavemen and the cavewomen sitting around, and I hear them talking about, oh, cave kids these days. First it was fire, now the wheel. And the truth of the matter is we have so much to celebrate with the youth of Hillsboro. So much to be proud of regarding their accomplishments. Let me just give you some of the statistics regarding some of our kids. Last school year, 2,662 students participated in career-related activities, job shadows, internships, career days, informational workshops, most of which were provided by the Hillsboro Chamber, by the City of Hillsboro, or by our countless business partners. Last year alone, we added 30 new business partners to our community of folks that are helping our students be successful. 2,662 students who are experiencing potential pathways for their life outside of their K-12 experience. Real-life experiences that are going to create pathways and niches for our kids. These experiences have also helped our graduation rates keep continuing going upward for the last several years, to the point where one of the 6 largest school districts in the state of Oregon, Hillsboro, has the highest graduation rate. #1 graduation rates of the 6 biggest school districts in the state of Oregon. And that may be a surprise to some people. Does that match the perception or what you sometimes hear about the Hillsboro School District? It might not. It's one of the reasons we want you to be informed about what's happening in the Hillsboro School District. Last year, our graduating class of 2015 earned over $11 million in scholarships. Our graduates are routinely accepted to schools across the nation, the most competitive colleges and universities in the country. 1,924 of our students participated in our dual language program. 1,924 kids that are going to be fully bilingual by the time they graduate are going to have unprecedented access to a very bright future. We had 2,600 students participate in after-school STEAM activities last year, a massive increase from the year before. Activities that will assist them in developing an interest in the high-tech industry. Nearly 1,000 high school students were awarded 5,374 college credits last year, saving their parents over $500,000 in college tuition. There's so much to be proud of with our kids in the Hillsboro School District. While we're proud of those statistics, we also know that we must be willing to analyze and take a closer look and understand that all of our students are not experiencing the same level of success that some of our students are experiencing. We can be happy about the 2,600 students who participated in the STEAM activities last year, but still be concerned for those students who have not yet had their interest unlocked by a meaningful connection to a STEAM activity. We can celebrate the $11 million in scholarships that were awarded last year, while losing sleep over the fact that some students don't view themselves as college material and didn't even apply. We rejoice in the 2,662 students who participated in career exploration activities, while still agonizing over those who we didn't find a meaningful connection for. Let's celebrate the fact that we are providing incredible opportunities for our students, some of our students. But let's be bold enough to believe that we can do this for all of our students. Let's be bold enough to believe that each student deserves that opportunity. Let's be bold enough to agree that the student's income level, their race, their gender, how they identify themselves, or their family circumstances, no matter, regardless of those, they deserve these same opportunities. Let's also be bold enough to believe that we together, through our own deliberate actions, can deliver on this and make this happen. Let's also fully understand that the school district cannot do this on their own, nor should it do it on its own. We need the help of our incredible Hillsboro community. Through the Hillsboro 2035 visioning process, it was very clear that the Hillsboro community expects and desires and is willing to help create a relevant education for the students of the Hillsboro community. Remember, school is no longer a place. It's a set of relevant experiences for our students. Last week, I had the opportunity to visit Miss Anderson's class, a 7th grade language arts teacher at Brown Middle School. And I was invited there because her students had been working on persuasive speeches. And the speeches that were going to be presented that way all had to do with school stuff. So she thought, what the heck, let's invite Mike and see if we can make this happen. So they were 3 to 5 minute speeches, and they delivered on a variety of different topics. There were kids that were talking about, we need more electives. Now, they didn't have an answer for what subject they were going to boot out to get these electives, but they wanted more electives. One kid wanted less PE, more gaming time, wanted more technology. One kid wanted to be paid to come to school, wanted to be paid for his homework. He wanted to be paid for his time on the bus to get to and from school. This kid just wanted to get paid. There was the typical thing that students always point out. There was, we need improvements to our school lunches. We got to have those. And that's pretty predictable if you're hearing any type of student speak in any school district. But I got to tell you, I've had some experience with school lunches, and every year I go and I help serve lunch at Marinko Elementary with Miss Betty, as the kids call her. And I know that the kids oftentimes look forward to the school lunch. On the day I was over there 3 or 4 weeks ago, the 2 choices were drumsticks, chicken drumsticks, or a burrito. Those were the 2 choices. And the kids were pretty excited about the 2 choices. And one of the kids, a 3rd grader, he came up and says, he saw the drumsticks there and he says, Miss Betty, your food is so much more legit than last year. It's awesome. Miss Betty was very excited by the compliment, even though she did say, you know, it's the same stuff we served last year. She was excited until one class later, fourth grader comes up and sees the drumsticks there and says, "Dude, chicken feet? I'm not eating those." So those are the typical topics that come up when you hear about persuasive speeches. And it wasn't the lunch topic, it wasn't the talk about technology, it wasn't about some of those other topics that came up. The kid that I remember most was a kid named Andy. And he came up and he did about a 4-minute speech. But the title, the first slide, his title said, "Is school preparing us for the real world?" He went on for 4 minutes about how it's not only about language arts, math, and social studies. It's also about experiences in the real world and what am I getting out of Brown Middle School right now that's going to prepare me for a future outside beyond 12th grade. I was amazed that a 7th grader already understood this. Understood that it wasn't technical.
We're just trying to save the feedback action. But
okay. I can tell the big wheel story again. So I was amazed that a 7th grader understood this, that understood how necessary it was to have real life experiences. And I was thinking to myself, imagine if our entire community understood what Andy understood. Imagine the power of an entire community that comes together to make a difference for our young people. Imagine the power of an entire community that serves their young people in a way that helps them gain these experiences that they need to be successful. Not only for the students, but they also, in a way, are creating citizens that are productive and resourceful, that are going to impact their community in such a positive way. A community that invests in the future generation. Imagine the sense of belonging that each student would feel, the sense of support, the sense of commitment to the community. Think about a young couple who are having their first child. Over at Tuolumne Hospital, they're having their first child, and they are overjoyed by the prospect. They're also thinking about what is it that I need to do to provide everything that I possibly can for my child. What if the entire community supported their child and worked to make sure that they received unprecedented opportunity, unprecedented access to pathways that open doors for them and move beyond the bright, move them into a bright future? What if that couple, when they left the hospital, they were given a gift that signifies the commitment and the commitment that the entire community has? What if they were given a little woman? Think about if a child is born in 2016, they are the class of 2034. You feel old when you have it? I felt really old. So when you think about that, it's not just something for the baby to wear, but it's a commitment from the community, a safety net illustrating that we have got you and we have got your child, and we together are going to make success happen for this little person. A simple gift, but one of great significance. We need your help to deliver on this promise. We need your help to help us open doors and to connect us with people that can provide opportunities for our students. People who can help us integrate more college and career pathway opportunities. People who will help our students prepare for the future. The kids in our community are counting on us to get it right, counting on us to help them find a future that is brighter than the current circumstances, counting on us to show them that we care and that we believe in their potential. Our Hillsboro students are incredible. You've seen some of them today. You see some of our artists working now as I'm speaking, and they're going to continue working as you participate in some group work. But they're incredible, and the promise that their future holds is absolutely amazing. They help us to understand that as a team we can provide great opportunity of success for them. Now, you're not here this morning just to hear me ramble on. You are here to help us and to provide some feedback as well. And we're going to ask you to answer a question at your table. And we're going to give you 5 minutes to talk a little bit. Aaron and Travis, maybe you can invite yourselves to it.
We have one more.
Debbie's
Very good. So you're good to go. All right. The first question that we'd like you to consider is this one. What stands in the way of achieving this vision? The vision of 100% of our students involved in college or career pathway opportunities. What stands in the way of that vision and making that happen? As you think about that, think about what stands in the way and how would we go about removing the barriers that do stand in the way. We're going to give you 5 minutes to speak at your table groups. If you would elect someone in your group to be able to report back on 1 or 2 of the concepts that you talked about and your 1 or 2 of the barriers and your ideas for overcoming those barriers. So we'll give you 5 minutes to start that discussion. Always start in the back here.
Is the innovation grant?
So we had parent engagement.
Grant, would you stand up, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
So we have a pretty extensive list. So we have parent engagement, generational poverty, communicating an awareness of the vision for students of being college and career ready, resources for schools to address the Common Core properly or efficiently, class size, and then a connection with community mentors.
Get everything but world hunger on there. Thank you. All right, that was the middle table.
So we had actually some of the same things in terms of family issues and issues of poverty, but a couple different things we had were, we happened to have a representative from Congresswoman Suzanne Bonamici's office, so kind of that policy level, statewide, nationwide look. As they're getting ready to reauthorize No Child Left Behind and thinking about things on a policy level, and so much of that is what's measurable, and which boils down to what is tested type things, but that's not necessarily what our employers are looking for, is who can take a good test. It's all sorts of other factors that are very difficult to quantify. So how do we do a better job of infusing the ability to value those qualities as we set policy? So that's certainly an important area. Also developing students' mindset of perseverance and capability and what is meaningful to me, do I love to learn, was another thing that was brought up.
Okay, thank you. Sandy, your take.
All right. So I think one of the comments that was made at our table, I think it was Kim that said it, if you can't dream it if you can't see it. And so many of our students haven't had the opportunities to get out into the real world. And there are different barriers that prevent them from doing that. For one, they're in school, and how do kids balance the regular school day and with getting out into the community to do an and I know that there are systems in place, but not all of our kids, I think, are taking part in those activities. One of the things that was brought up also is that perhaps some of the career pathways or the college pathways might steer kids away from participating in some of the other programs because their focus is so intensely driven around academics. And that another limitation and perhaps a barrier is that, we see that we understand in the school district that not all of our parents have the capacity to support their kids in that way. But, excuse me, neither does the school district. And really it's more of a community effort, that it's not just any one entity that should be looked upon to help provide our kids with these opportunities. And we also talked about really starting our kids earlier and earlier with getting them into the real world experiences, maybe even starting at the middle school level, so that they can, as they're forming their identities, they can imagine themselves in certain situations or eliminate, if they aren't interested in being a professional singer, maybe when they're in a choir, they can make that determination for themselves and say, okay, not going to do that. That's a really important thing to be able to do as well.
Thank you.
So our conversation focused more on the barriers in the community around helping people understand the message that we have, all of the good things that are happening in our school, and how do we reach those 70% of folks in our community that don't have kids in their schools, who may be retired or never had kids in the community, have come into the community after their kids have graduated. We feel like we've made some great strides in that area with a lot of the communication work that Beth's group has done, the Proud to be HSD festival that we had last year. But really, how do we bring in the rest of the community, help them understand the importance of the work that we're trying to do?
Thank you.
At our table, we talked a little bit about how do we think outside the box of a traditional bell schedule to work with students? How do we balance state mandates with still dreaming and doing, how do we make sure that we expose students to the information earlier than their senior year so they feel prepared as they transition? And then also making sure that students access their school counselors earlier than junior, senior year, starting much earlier than that, get more frequency with them, and starting that earlier, even down to middle school. And then we talked a little bit about how to overcome it is continuing our outreach with parents, our community and students, and then clear communication, engagement, and motivation for students. So continue with our work of alignment of pathways, making that crystal clear, not only to students, but their parents. And we spoke a little bit about first-generation families as well, and the importance of supporting them with their students along the journey.
We talked about pathways as well and asked the question whether or not all schools have pathways that are clear for students to investigate different career opportunities or learning areas of interest to them. We suggested that we could go big on organizing and clarifying what those pathways are so all students have access to them. We talked about middle schoolers as well and speculated about the 13 and 14-year-old brain and what might be going on there, according to our own non-scientific research. We talked about providing experiences that allow students to shift their mindset about who they are and who they might become in their lives and give them opportunities to do learning about career opportunities as early as middle school, with electives that align to different pathways. And then we talked about creating bridges from middle school to high school so that students can get thinking strategically earlier about their career trajectory and their academic pathways.
Thank you.
So a lot of what we talked about was the fear to get out of the traditional school setting, classroom setting, and it was brought up that at another school in Texas, they have all this hands-on learning opportunities where they can actually get certificates of completion in a certain field related to trade school. And there also needs to be more information directed at both parents and students about college and about other career opportunities while the children are still in high school, so that they know what's going on. Because I know a lot of parents don't know like how college applications work or how to move on to the next step. We also talked about a lack of a lot of things. There's a lack of time and to sit and plan with counselors. They have so many students to meet with that the only thing that they really can do is build a schedule, and there's really no time to talk about the person's future. And there's also there's not a lot of life skill training. For instance, you brought up that your niece didn't know how to balance a checkbook, or like we don't know how to do a lot of the things that we need to learn how to do in the real world. And so yeah, that's what we talked about.
Thank you. Wayne?
And lots of common themes came out, similar. A couple of points in summary of our conversation. One, I don't know, the conversation was about starting with the attitude of what we have instead of what we don't have. We can, as adults, kind of generate into a vacuum of worrying about what we can't do instead of focusing on the resources that we have among the community. Second thought that I collected from the conversation was that schools aren't buildings. Schools aren't a place. They're a environment that we can create as a community, and as a barrier or something that we can do as a community to break down the perception of a wall, of a building that we send our kids to, rather than a community that's participating in the education, which kind of brings us to many of the ideas that were talked about, mentorship, business involvement, breaking down barriers of going to school versus interacting with more adults, more time with teachers in the education process, more time with business leaders or community members that are contributing to that education process. So,
Thank you. We have one more question that we'd like you to consider at your table group, and that question is, how do we go about building energy and support and an understanding of what is going on in the Hillsboro School District. What are some practical steps that we can take that will build support and energy around the Hillsboro School District with our community? If you could talk about that and do some very practical ideas that you can do. All right, thank you. We start up front this time. Wayne, how about you? You get the first
So, first is create positive illustrations of success. And there was no better example than this morning, seeing students doing things that they're becoming expert at. And more and more examples out in the community of students sharing their skills just to raise awareness of the kind of benefits that are coming from school is one idea. So bring students to the community to engage with businesses. Instead of going to businesses kind of asking for things, go offering things. And could we do an event in your area? Could we do something that is centric to having students engage with the community members, share their skills, and get exposure to real world activities? And other practical things, creating more experiences for job interview instruction, for how to interact, how to conduct business in the real world. Some ideas.
Thank you.
We talked about similar things, putting a face and a story to the Hillsboro School District, saying this student did this and this is their chosen pathway. And we just want recognition of students in the community to show the community your tax money did this, like your tax money prepared this student to go on and do this awesome thing. And so we also think there should be opportunities to venture into the real world and then coming back and speaking about them at different community events. And we also talked about involving local businesses and such.
Thank you.
Okay, we talked about a lot of things, but what kind of boiled down for us was talking about how the community, maybe businesses in the area can partner with the schools. Because we talked at first about how 70% of the people who vote in the school district don't have kids in the school district. Aaron's an example. I don't live in Hillsboro, I live in Tiger. And my kids are in school, but I work here. And I work for a community that can give back. So how do we partner? So we talked about mentorships, internships, tours, information exchange, at what level that could happen with businesses. And then we talked specifically about what if we grew our own workforce here? There's a lot of industry around this area that we don't have necessarily the skilled trades for. There's trade schools in other states that we're recruiting from. What if we grew our own workforce here, and what would that look like? That's kind of how our conversation went.
Thank you.
Okay, so we talked a lot about marketing, and the way we talked about marketing was actually there's a perception that other school districts are better than Hillsboro School District, and some of us talked about how we need to be more proactive in marketing ourselves as a school district, as doing bold things to move forward, working really towards the students, not maybe just our staff member, and not that we don't want to focus on our staff members, but more focusing on the students and thinking about what's good for the students. And one thing that was mentioned was surveying people on the perception that they have on Hillsboro School District, and then taking that and making steps to move forward and improve upon those perceptions. And then one last thing, what we talked about was celebrating the diversity that we have at HSD. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
So we had a lot of the similar conversations. We also talked about some of the things that we're currently doing and maybe expanding those. Billboards, for instance. A couple of the folks at the table had recognized the billboards and the bus benches out in the community, and think that that might be another avenue to pursue more broadly. Making as much use as we can out of the digital media, especially around telling stories, student stories, teacher stories, not just the superintendent talking to the community, but really sharing a lot of those stories out there. And then how we go about, that it's not a realistic expectation to expect the community to come to us. We have to be willing to get it out into the community to share our story. We also love the idea of the onesies at the hospitals, reaching out to those young families. How do we engage them right from the start?
Is he your boss? Is that what you said? Good job,
Pretty good.
Thank you.
So we had a similar conversation when we said that we need to go where the people are. So whether we're going out to the farmer's market with the Celebrate HSD and going where people are already going to be, whether it's Rotary clubs, churches, athletic teams and boards, and really sharing our message there about what's awesome about our district. And trying to anticipate what are people's sources of information. Is it the digital resources, or are there other resources that we need to be tapping into? And something that was an interesting conversation as well was about our alumni. Are we adequately using our former Hillsboro graduates to show where they're at in life? Are we celebrating the distinguished alumni? Are we bringing them in to talk to our students? Maybe alumni who are recent graduates, so that there's that near peer relationship and that students are able to see what's possible and visualize a future for themselves.
Okay, some of the same ideas that have been presented so far. That it would be great if the district could provide some easy talking points that all of us that are willing to be the cheerleaders for what's going on in our schools are sort of armed with the facts. Really emphasizing our graduation rates, that's really key. And simplify that imagery and simplify the facts so everybody can digest it easily. It was brought out that the perception is an issue, and that we can work on that by engaging the members of the community that don't have kids in schools, and that maybe there's by maybe engaging them in helping the homeless students of our district, that might be an entry point that those people without kids in schools might be able to rally around and support. That might be a way to engage them as well. And then just reinforcing the idea that property values and crime are all tied into how well our schools are doing, and that the more we can get that message out, the better.
Thank you. Back to you.
Get people into schools to see firsthand what's happening on a day-to-day basis. Opportunities for involvement, and communicate them. They just need to be asked, even if it's a real small need. Tell the stories of our schools and students, connecting with the business community to create partnerships, build up staff and energize them back from the brink of being overwhelmed, and the need for a strong arts education.
Excellent. Thank you. We've been videotaping your answers, and so we will be using these. If we put you on a commercial, we'll get your permission. I want to thank you for coming today. The fact that we've always said that education is a team sport, and we are very happy to have you as teammates along this journey with us. When I look at the people in the room, we've got Michael Brown from the city here, we've got our Hillsboro Schools Foundation, we've got many business partners, we've got the chamber. The social services from the community are also represented here, so we appreciate this. As the students have been working on this project up here, our goal is to communicate to you that it is about our community coming forward to do this work. It's about our families, it's about celebrating the culture that we have in the Hillsboro community, it's about the languages, it's about the businesses, it's about the partners that we have working alongside of us. And it's that investment in the community that is going to create pathways for our students. It's going to help us develop their potential and to provide a bright opportunity for them going into the future. Some things that we ask of you as we wrap up this morning. The first thing is that you you stay informed. We shared many statistics and facts with you this morning. Feel free to share those with other community members and with your friends. And when you hear things about the district, use that as an opportunity. Become a partner with us. We are looking for those real life experiences for our students. If you know of a business or if you're involved with a business that can help us do that, we would love to have your input and love to hear that information from you. And continue to be a champion for the district. We are very serious about our marketing efforts, and it's something that we're working on as we move forward. But that starts with real people out in the community having those positive conversations.